Hey everyone, just checking. Is everyone actually here? First time doing this, so I have no idea what's going on. If you're here, say something in the chat. Well, I'll just wait until somebody joins up, because it'll be a little bit weird if I'm just talking to myself. Yeah, right. There's at least one guy, so it'll be worthwhile. Somebody will learn something. I'll get started, and I think people join up as they would like. So I just had the idea, since I tend to look at a lot of Mudlet's people's codes, to give tips on how to write them better. I've been doing it for a while. There's nothing special about what I've learned. I've just done it for a while, so I've picked up a couple of tricks here and there along the way. So I figured I'd share them. So the way I decided to do this was to do it on some practical scripts. I asked a few people. I asked anybody who was willing to send me their scripts. 2 people showed up with them, so we'll go over the stuff. Hopefully you'll learn something. If you have any questions, feel free to ask in the chat. I'll be looking at it here and there. First script I want to look at is this influence script in the game of Sternia. Oh no, we don't have to understand what exactly is going on in the game, etc. We're just focused on making the script better, improving the script quality. And keep in mind that none of this is personal as well, so I'm just going to be criticizing your code, not you personally. My intent here is just to get you to write stuff that you'll have an easier time working with later. So I haven't spent much time looking at this, just so I'm not as prepared as you guys are, so I'm looking at this for the first time pretty much, just like you are. The first thing I would have to say is indenting. Indenting really helps your reading comprehension of it later. I'm looking at it and it's a little hard to read. I can't really tell where a function begins and ends. I have to scroll all the way down. I see there's a function starting here, influence attack, and then I have to scroll all the way down to somewhere here-ish. There's a whole mass of end statements, and then I'll figure out what's actually going on. So, first thing I'll do is I'm going to add some indenting to it. add a space here so we can clearly see the function. That's where the function is beginning. And this Lua standard indenting style is about 2 spaces, like this. So all of this stuff should be indented. I'm going to cheat a little bit. I'm going to use an editor that allows me to select stuff with a pretty cool cursor and indent it. So I'm just going to do something like this. 1, 2. I know you can't do it in Mudlet yet, but we're working on it. Soon you will be. Okay. So let's go over a function piece by piece. It declares a table called influence attacks, and inside the tables there's a whole lot more tables: charity, empowering, etc, etc. Then there's an if statement that's sort of like way out of line. So I'll just indent it like this. Indent the for inside the int statement like this as well. Move the do over on the previous side. It's easier to read it that way. And then all of this stuff we can indent at once as well. It's a little hard to see. There we go. I have no idea where the for statement ends, so I'll just guess a little bit. Alright, there's a whole lot of int statements, and then there's another if statement here. Oops, pressing wrong key. And then here we end the for statement. A bunch of debug statements, let's leave it in there. And here we get a function out. Alright, now function looks okay, it's easy to read. I know it's kind of boring, didn't learn much, but you can at least see what the function looks. You can actually see where the function ends, and you can actually see what's going on in here a little better. Now, picking the script apart, what does it do? It looks at a table called gmcp.char.skills.list.list, and then it sees for every key inside it, if it's begging, supplication, or wheedling, then it inserts that value into the charity table. Okay. If you were doing it simply, I think this was enough. I'd probably leave it be like that. There is a better way to do this. I'm just thinking of how. You would have to do something around tables. So it's saying that all of these attacks belong to charity, and if you actually have one of those, you want to store it in the influence attacks. What I would do is make a definition of all of them, because one of the things with this function is defining the data that it's also working with. It would be nice if the data was separate of a function, and then you could reuse that piece of data anywhere else you want. So let's try making a new table, something like influence attacks data equals and then we could say inside it that begging is a charity attack, and I could say Supplication is a charity attack again. And wheedling, same thing. I won't do the whole of the table. It'll get kind of boring if I do. So I'll just leave it be here. Now let's double check what we've got on our table. Lua table will display the table for us. It's exactly what we put in. Brilliant. And now we want to transform this giant if statement to say that if you have any one of those attacks, we want it added to this list here. So what we could do is if influence attacks data hey bash, if influence attacks data inf ab. So what this says is that if this key, which would be begging, supplication, or wheedling, is present in our tables that we defined, then we do is table insert, get rid of a slight random spaces, insert the charity, Now the thing is, we don't want to insert into charity directly, because the next one is, you see, the next one is empowering, so we don't want to hard code that. But what we can do is, remember how we just defined a table with all of these keys mapping to this value? So this statement checks that if the key is actually there, but it'll also return the value, so it'll return charity. So because it returns charity, we can do this little trick. So charity will now get filled in because it is the value that's in this table. If that's confusing, let me know. I'm happy to pause and explain. I've never done this before, so you know, my thoughts might not be on the same wavelengths as other people's. Hey, we save a script and there's no error. So now we can do the same thing as well with compliments, admiration, empowering. Just as an example. Compliments, admiration, and praise are all empowering. So brilliant. Now we can get rid of this line as well. So you see how it's a little bit cleaner now to read. You have all of your attacks here, and you can clearly tell the attack and the type. And this thing automatically says if it's a known attack, we get its type here, and then we insert it into here, into the right table. So that'll do for the rest of this function. Here, influence attacks, just indent a little bit. And this one is my inf test. It's much the same thing as the one above. So otherwise I think with this, probably this part improved to use this data table, and this will be pretty similar to the one above. I think I'd be happy with scripted that. Right. The other thing that I got to look at is this profile. The person just told me have at it, so I was like, sure, I'll have at it. Which is pretty awesome. Thanks for sharing that, whoever shared it. And I had some notes. Oh, that's right, I did. So I had to look through the aliases a little bit already. So the first one was this alias. It works fine, and it's very readable, and it's indented, and it's great. But it could be optimized a little bit more. Now, first of all, this little bit local mylim is equals nil. It's a little redundant. If you do this, it'll be the same thing. It'll get assigned to nil. But here, instead of having all of this be this mass of if and else use statements, what you could do is, again, use tables. Yes, I do like tables. They're awesome. Use tables. Define all of your data. Let's give it a name. Naming things is the hardest thing in programming. We'll call it lim shortcuts. Lim shortcuts. And we'll say that AA equals left arm, DD equals right arm, because you see it's right here. Z equals left. And I'll leave it at that. There's more to it to fill in. And then, instead of having this whole mass of statements, what we can do is here. See how it says it checks if matches equals AA, then you set lim to the left arm, and then you do a send all statement with a lim. I'll just cut this statement out here. And you can do is replace this with a lim shortcuts with lim shortcuts lim prime. Now save it, and I've got a syntax error. Good job, cat code. On line 4, I missed an equal sign because we have local. We define our variable local lim shortcuts equals table. Gotta have an equal sign in there. Right, got rid of a labug, and it's good now. So if we try SHAA, nothing happens. Shrivel. Let's look at the errors here as to why, because you do get errors. Line number 9, number 8, number 9, number 8. Attempt to concatenate field unknown, a nil value. That's because our the little AA part, the part that got captured by the alias, it's inside the matches 2 variable, not inside lim. Lim is nil, because I just said right here, it's still nil. That's why I was trying to concatenate nil. But if you just copy this from here, paste this, save it, try again, and you see it sent some stuff, but we couldn't see it because send all was set to false. If we set it to true, it will show what we've sent, and you see it does shrivel left arm like we wanted to. The other thing you could do to improve here, and it's a little efficiency tip, is while using these 2 dots is nice, so it makes it a little hard to read when you have variables interpolated in the middle of it, and it's also kind of inefficient. Lua likes a lot better if you use a thing called string format. I'll show you how to do it. The way you do this is you say string dot format here, and then you string dot format at the end, and then so we have basically 2 variables separated by space. In string dot format, a string or a piece of text goes inside a %s for the first variable, %s for the second variable, and then as an argument to string.format you can pass all your variables. So let's get rid of the 1, 2, 3 string concatenations for us. That's what these two things are called, two dots together, a string concatenation. And then made it a little bit nicer. You can see shrivel, and you insert something here, and you insert something here. The first thing that you insert is this, the second thing that you insert is this. On a much larger piece of text, where you can have like text here, and then text in the middle of here, and then a lot more text after that, it makes it a lot nicer to see. So I've been rambling on for about 20 minutes now. Is anyone following me? Is anybody not following me? Curious about some feedback, because this is the first time I'm doing it, so I have no idea what I'm doing here either. The only thing I'm good at is Lua and Mudlet. If you could drop any feedback in the chat on this YouTube thing, that'd be cool. Alright. Got no idea. If anyone's listening, but I'll just continue. We'll see. Maybe some good will come out of it. Maybe people watch later. The next thing is, yeah, versatile aliases are pretty simple, pretty fine. It's all good. The other thing is, let's dive into scripts, see if we can improve anything out in here. GUIs. I've had just a peek of them before just to see if there's anything interesting. Looking for here. First thing, could do with some indenting, so it's a lot easier to see. But otherwise, oops. Otherwise, the code is fine. It checks that there is a trigger existing already. It deletes previous triggers, etc. That's right. One interesting thing I had somewhere down here was here. When I first got the profile, I couldn't load it because this function was erroring. And this function was erroring because I was trying to load the enemy list file without checking if it was actually there. So because this person shared the profile with me, I didn't get all of the files across with them. So it wasn't working for me. So what's a good idea to do is there is a function model called io.exists, and it checks if a given file at the location exists. So for example, we can wrap this table.load in a exist call just to make sure that it doesn't error when we're trying to load it. If io.exists, copy the file we're trying to load, then we actually load it. Otherwise, don't do anything, there's no file to load. Check. Right, that's better. Someone asked me why do I prefer choosing string.format over dot concatenation. The main one is performance. Lua doesn't like to do string concatenation, it's very non-performant. If you Google Lua performance tips, it'll be like one of the first things that comes up. Let's open up a few tabs. This is a very good read, by the way, Lua performance tips from the Lua Gems book. If you're ever going to read any book, read this book. I think this is the only programming book I've ever read, because that was actually interesting. And let me see where's concat. Strings. About strings, bunch of Perl code. Locals are faster than globals. I'll go over that in a bit. String concatenation performance. String buffers. I won't read out all of this, but we'll just skim through it. So suppose you're building a string piecemeal, reading file by line. In typical code, we look at this warning, bad code ahead, and you do for every line that you get, you add the line to the buffer and you do /n. Now, this is really slow. It takes almost a minute to read this simple file. Here we do something else. Here we use table.concat. Sorry. Yeah, people are talking about other stuff here. Well, couldn't find resources on it right now, but from a lot of experience of working with Lua, and you can benchmark it yourself, you'll see that this variant, where you use string.format, $s with the variables, will be a lot quicker than trying to concatenate these variables all together. And if you're building a lot of text, then you want to use the table.concat version, which is what everybody else is talking about. But for our simple aliases, it's a bit overkill. Even string.format is, going a little bit heavy, but it's quick. The other thing that I wanted to show you, drag deadeye, F tracking. Oh, glorious yellow, white on yellow highlighting. That's a bug, sorry. But the next release is coming out in a couple of days and it'll fix it. Whoa, I can't see anything. Good job. Hello. There we go, got rid of highlighting. I saw this function and I thought that we could optimize it. So what this function does is, there's one function here, track deadeye Fs, F1, F2, and the target. So this function, if there is a table, it reuses it, otherwise it defines a new table, and then it sets these three variables. There's probably not much need to do this table definition inside a function. You can make the function a lot smaller, and you can pull out the table definition out here, and you'll have exactly the same effect, except you'll have one less check inside the function. Because when you save the script, it'll run. So when I saved it right now, click, it ran, and this whole piece of code got executed. Same thing as running it inside a function, except you're running it a lot more inside a function. Where can we get the Lua Gems book? I think you can get it on Amazon. I think that's why I got it. Amazon.co.uk, sure. Lua gems. Lua programming gems. That's what I read. There's a pretty good read. It is technical, but don't be daunted. You'll slowly start understanding stuff through it, and you'll like it. I've liked it. Alright, so interesting function is this one, track data. It sets up a table and then it goes through a whole lot of if statements, including table.contains, and we can optimize that. So let's try and understand what is it trying to do here. So it says if a table dead dies cures, which is this table right here, in f1, so f1 would be a value out of these, I guess, stupid, paralyzed, reckless, etc. If a table that we have, so this table here contains focus, then we do something. So for example, if we pretend that f1 was stupid, this would hit this key, it would return us this table, and then we would pass this table into table that contains, and because there's a focus, see there's a focus here, it goes onto the then. And then inside the then it does af tracking, for that target focus it says it has a +1 to it. The thing with this is that table contains, the way it works under the hood is it'll have to go over every key in the table, so it'll have to check the first key, check the second key, check the other key, and then if it finds something it returns true. It could be a lot more efficient if we made this be just like a check right here. So you see how here we put the thing in square brackets? If we could do the same thing here, that'll be a lot more efficient. So when we can do that by rewriting this table, which is right now a list of things, to be a key value or a map. It's called a map because you have values here and they're mapped to values here. So what I'll do is I'll indent it, because I love indenting, and I'll turn this table from a list into the same thing. I'll do focus. Let's say focus equals true, because we have to set the value to something. We don't care what the value is, we just want to check for the key. And true is, you know, just storing a boolean is pretty cheap. True, and then we do golden seal equals true. Right, we'll do the first one. And now we broke this entire function because table.contains might not work on the keys. Don't remember. Oh, we stuffed it up. Why? Well, for one, I forgot a comma here. Hey, it's gone. Yeah, so if you're coding and you're getting lots of ladybugs, don't worry. This is exactly what happens to me as well. It's normal part of life. And now we can check. We can get rid of this table.contains. And then you could do if table. If this table, the table that we get here, and then we check the value focus. This will do exactly the same thing as the table that contains. So at first we goes to this table. Yep, f1, let's say is stupid. Stupid, it's like, yep, found it. So then we're looking at this table, and then it checks, is there a focus key? Yep, there's a focus key. And then it does something. So that's more efficient. And actually I'm wondering, is there a way for us to get rid of all of these if statements? Because look, they're just replicating the data that we have up here. So the first one is it's checking whether there's a focus, and then it checks if there's a golden seal. If we scroll through here we can see there's a golden seal, there's a lobelia. Where's the lobelia? Yeah, I think there is. I think if we make a separate table with all of these values, then we could just loop through the table and it'll have the same thing as this giant massive if statements. So there's even a way to auto-generate this, the table that we'll do from this, but let's do it step by step. So at first let's define our table, so the things that we're checking, and in the game, this is from, these are plants by the way, so, and we'll call them local curing plants equals to the, and we'll go, oh, I guess we're not plants because focus isn't plant, curing things, cures. Yeah, that'll sound right. Cures. Right, first cure is focus. Next cure is golden seal. Third cure is lobelia. And before we fall asleep, we'll then edit that. And then what we can do here is loop through the table. So we do for cure in I pairs. Because this is a list, you want to use I pairs. If this was a map like this, where you have value equals something, you use pairs. But otherwise, I pairs is more efficient. So if you can use it, prefer to use it. In I pairs, cures do, and now I think it's a good idea to test what we're doing. You always want to be doing that. So I'll just end the for loop here, and I'll make it so none of the other code runs. So if true, then return end. That's just so we're not getting errors. And let's try running our function. So we do lua track that I. Let's say it wants two arguments, f1, f2, and argument. And f1 is one of these. So let's pick stupid. And I think f2 can be the same thing because it's just duplicated. So we can do stupid, and an argument. Let's say our target is a, I don't know, sheep, whatever. Run the function, nothing happened. Also didn't get any errors. Awesome. Let's print out. Let's add a print here just to see that the cures that we're doing is actually looping. And hey, it is. Focus, golden seal, lobelia. Focus, golden seal, lobelia. Same order. Brilliant. Now we stick our if statement inside here. So remember how we want to replace focus with the cure. So we do focus, cure, and we indent it. Yeah. Funny. Oh. There we go. And actually, at this a small problem here. It's called golden seal, which is the name that's used here, but it's called G seal here. Okay, complicates things a little bit, but for the time being, if we'll get to it later. Let's just save it down here at the bottom, because it wouldn't be breaking the script either in the name of making it better. That won't make it better if we break it. But for now, let's pretend it wasn't here. Everything else is simple. That same variable cure, we can stick it in here. So this thing automatically does what all of this does. we can get rid of all of this. And since this whole thing is just about repeating it for af2, we can have another for loop for af2, af1, af2, and that's it. And all of this can go away. So you can see how it got a lot smaller. Instead of having a giant wall of ifs, we just have 2 for loops that do this thing. Now, of course, we also broke it, because here it wants a golden seal key, and what it'll actually store it as is gseal. If this is important, and it probably is, because I made it that way, we want to keep it. Let me think of the best way to do this. Alright, a good idea. We'll use more tables. Clearly tables have a solution to everything. So when we store focus here, we can store focus in the table. It's on a table of its own, because we are happy with using focus. Or we can even say focus and then focus, focus. Golden seal, and then we stick gseal in here. Golden seal, gseal. And then I'm do lobelia. Lobelia, right? Okay, now we have like a table of tables. So if we try and display this in a formatted way, we'll do it looks like this. There's one table here, now a table here, now a table here. And of course, there's always Mudlet's new variables view, came out in version 3.0 recently. So we won't see it in there because it's a local one, a local table. But if we just remove this, make it a global one, we will see it in here. Here it is. Right, variables view. If you haven't used it much, it's pretty useful, pretty handy. You have cures. You can see that there is a table, which means this is the table. Get it? We expand it and we see that it says 1, 2, 3. Why 1, 2, 3? Because this is a list of tables. So this is the first table, this is the second table, this is the third table. Corresponds to this, what you see here. See, it doesn't have a name, it's just one, first table, second table, third table. We expand the first table and we see a value inside it. It's an @ sign. The first value is focus, right here, focus. Second value is focus, focus. This is the interesting bit, what matters. Golden seal and gseal. So, now because we're tracking what maps to what, in our case golden seal maps to gseal, what we want to do is we want to use... first of all we have to update our table, because our cures table isn't looping over strings anymore, isn't looping over strings. You will be, instead of getting focus back, you'll be getting a table with focus back. So that kind of breaks our function a little bit, sort of sucks. In fact, if we try and use it again, nothing will happen. I'm pretty sure it's because we had an error somewhere in there. Oops. Yeah. Let's add a print statement. This worked in here. So this worked here. But if we go inside here, Oh, I know why there's no error. Because we have an if statement here. It checks before there's anything that's going to be happening. So it's checking that if that f cures f1, which is stupid, it has a cure. But remember that cure is a table. It's an actual table. So it won't match it won't match focus here, it won't match golden seal here, because these are pieces of text, strings. We're matching a text against a string, so it's not actually there. So it's not matching, which is why it's not working. But since we know that cure 1, remember from looking at variables view here, cure 1 is the thing here. Cure 1 is our focus, then we can say then cure then f attack target, and then we add cure 2 in here, because remember in this little piece of text, piece of code, golden seal is 1, G seal is 2. We do cure 2 here, we do cure 2 here, same thing here, same thing here, and we update to this. And that's it. We can get rid of this bit. Now, this looks kind of shiny, but there's one big issue with it, is that it has no comments. And you want to add comments explaining why are you doing something. That's the main philosophy behind commenting your stuff, is when you're coming back to it half a year later, 2 years later, and you're looking at the stuff, and you can see what it's doing, you can read the code, but you have no idea why did you decide it was a good idea. So we'll add a comment here saying this is the hard part. Commenting is really difficult. Why are we doing this? Well, I don't know. Because we want stuff to happen. For cures. We'll say we'll cheat a little bit. We'll add an explanatory word comment, just so the person who's reading this code after can also understand what's going on. So we'll say look up afflictions, because F1, F2 were afflictions, in the cures table, and if found, add the appropriate mapping being a focus, G seal or labelia, to the target's track table. There we go. And this has been bothering me all along, so to fix my OCD I'll indent it like that here. And with the rest of the table filled in like this, you can see that we have a lot less code that when we started with. The function got a lot more smaller, and all of the data got pulled out here. You see that in this function here we don't mention any affliction, we don't mention anything by name, which makes it really easy, because should something change in the future, if you want to add a new affliction, you just add it to this table and you'll see how all this entire thing will automatically just work. You don't have to go to 10 different places and add things here and there and miss a spot and have it not work. So that was the reason behind separating the data from a function. It pays off in the long run. If anybody has any questions, please ask. Happy to explain. Otherwise, I think for the first run, I think that's quite enough. I've went over quite a lot. And I still have no idea if anybody understood what I was talking about, so this will be a little weird. Otherwise, if there's no questions, then we'll end it here. Hey, I'm glad it helped at least somebody. That's awesome. Alright, well, other than that, hit me up on Discord. Let me know if you would like to see something else, if you would like to do this again, if you'd like me to go over your script. Don't be ashamed about displaying it. Everybody's a newbie. Even I write bad code. And yeah, just making stuff better, teaching people. It's kind of awesome. Alright, thank you for watching, everybody. I think I'll sign off on here. How do I close this thing? Oh, there you go. Big red stop string button. Goodbye, everyone.